Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I thought today maybe that I would give you just a little bit of background about me. I know that I kind of jumped right into a lot of the makeup tutorials and a lot of the MS stuff, so I thought maybe that what I could do is kind of give you a little bit of background about me. I was born in Washington State and lived in a small town called Quincy, Washington, Quincy, Washington, and I still have a lot of family there. So most of my cousins and everything are still there. The other ones have moved on. A lot of them, like I said, are still there. My family is slowly but surely, we're losing them as they get older, and that's a lot of bit of a concern. Anyway, but you know, it's just life. So anyway, when I was about 13, moved to Spokane, Washington, and that's actually where I graduated from high school. Married my high school sweetheart, and then eventually we did divorce. We had Colby when I was 23, and he's obviously my oldest. And then once Brandon and I divorced, then what we did is, after that, or right before that, I actually met Peter, and him and I married a year after we met, and then we moved to Arizona. So in 99, we moved to Arizona in 99, and we've been here ever since. His family has purchased homes here, that kind of stuff. So everyone's kind of migrating over to the Phoenix area. I have family here as well, and that's one of the reasons why I actually came here. My grandfather and my uncle were here. I'd never really been out of Washington State much, so once I actually separated from Brandon, I decided I was going to do something for Colby and I. And I decided I was going to take a trip down to see family, and that's exactly what we did. And then within the year, I said I wanted to live here. I know that my uncle's neighbors must have thought I was like a crackhead or something, because I was outside smelling the palm trees and touching them, and I gave one a hug, and I'm just kind of animated like that, and I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. I'd never really seen a palm tree except for once in California on my honeymoon with Brandon, but I never really got the chance to actually touch them and that kind of stuff. So that's the history of that. 2, I love tattoos. Absolutely love that. If you've looked at some of my previous videos, it has talked a lot about, I have talked probably not extensively, but you know, enough that I started tattooing when I was about 32, and I have expressly made concerns about how these young people go in and they make snap decisions when it comes to tattooing, but it's permanent, and removing it is expensive and very painful from what I understand. So I really am extensively tattooed, and anyone who personally knows me has seen a lot of my artwork. My legs, my back, across my hips, down my sides, that kind of stuff. Anyone who also knows me knows that I'm a huge Jack Skellington fan, and I actually have him all the way down my right ribs. He's tearing out of my skin. I have 0 on my back and everything. My love of music is portrayed on my second side, on my left side, I'm sorry, and I'm a huge music lover, huge. My favorite band at this point in time is Bring Me the Horizon. I love alternative and grunge. I am a product of the 90s as well as the 80s, and I absolutely just love heavy metal still. I do still love 80s metal. I don't know if that's just reminiscing of being a child. I drive a Dodge Charger. I love American muscle. My previous car actually was a Hyundai Genesis, but it had a bigger engine than what I think I have in my Charger, and it was a stick. I made the decision to actually change over to an automatic, which I've only owned 2 automatic cars in my life, and I've always driven a stick out of probably the 10 to 12 cars that I've ever owned. And I just enjoy a manual transmission more because I feel like you have more control over the engine if you want. And yeah, it was an amazing car. It really was fantastic. I loved the Hyundai, but I really am enjoying my Charger. I grew up in the small town that we grew up in. My dad actually was a long-haul trucker. He went everything west of the Mississippi, and because of that, he ended up with a 13-speed white line and cab over, and I was the one who helped him work on it. As a child, I wasn't into Barbies. I wasn't into doing anything like that. I wanted to be outside with my dad, playing in the dirt, playing with tractors, playing all this kind of stuff, so I learned how to work on engines at the time. My first husband, Brandon, he went to school for auto mechanics. He actually became ASE certified in 7 of the 8. He didn't want to work in air conditioning. He said he didn't want to work with Freon, so that was one thing that he really didn't want to do. He took all the tests. It was pretty expensive, but who do you have to study with? That would be me. So my love of cars continued. I don't like to get dirty though now, especially I don't like to work on them, but I love to talk about them. I love to listen to them. I love driving a car with some muscle. It's, if anything, just my speeding is something that I should be concerned about. But part of that is just to get around cars and what, like, you know, that kind of stuff. That's kind of a little bit of background about me, or probably most of my background, actually. One thing that I do know is that I will probably show more of my tattoos. I do have ones that are on the inside of my arms. I have my armband. Those are really the only ones that basically are visible, except when I have my hair up, and I have the ones behind my ears. Today's beanie day. It's actually kind of cold. It was only 44 degrees when I left work this morning at 5 o'clock, and I thought, whoop, it's definitely beanie weather. If you have any questions and you want to know a little bit more about me, I got into makeup because my sister's best friend, that she was our next door neighbors when we were still living in the little town in Quincy, and I just love the way Karen did her makeup. And I was very little when I think the first time she actually showed me, maybe 9 or 10 years old, and I've carried that love for a long time. When I was about 19, I actually joined the community of Mary Kay, and from there I learned a lot more makeup techniques and how to actually take care of my skin. And I have said this before, and if you look at some of my past tutorials, if you don't have a fantastic base, you're never going to get great makeup. So taking care of what's underneath is much more important than what we put on the top for decoration, honestly. Any music you hear is courtesy of my Slacker Radio. I say that all the time. I'm certainly not here to do any copyright infringement. These are songs that are made by the artists that are out today. But if you'll notice, it is heavy metal music. This is what I use to get ready for work. So that's kind of just a little bit about me. My MS background, that's one thing that I definitely wanted to talk about today. I was diagnosed in 2000 when Kylie was born. I was diagnosed 4 months after my daughter was born. And I have been through so many treatments, so many. The first one I actually was on was the Avonex, and I really do believe that that's one of the reasons why I ended up so sick, and how I really came to be part of the chemo world and everything. And I had a neurologist that I just didn't trust. The man never ever touched me, never once. He never did a neuro assessment. He never did anything. He sat 4 feet behind me in the back of his, his mahogany desk, and never actually touched me, and never did an assessment, never did anything. And once I started to have a lot of trouble breathing, I told him something was really wrong. He's like, oh, you have asthma. I'm like, no, I don't. So I talked to my primary care doctor. That's when he moved me over to St. Joe's Hospital, which is into Barrows Medical. They're a teaching hospital. They're absolutely fantastic. I've just left Barrows because I followed a fantastic neurologist, whom I have now. And I have been on almost all of the therapies, including Tysabri, Tecfidera. I've taken Copaxone. I've taken Avonex. The Ocrelizumab really is the absolute best one that I've been on so far. And that is the one thing that I really want to talk to you guys about. This last attack that everyone has followed me through has been probably the most serious one that I've had in years, probably years. But I am back on the Ocrelizumab. I know that my stress level, I was injured for a little bit. All of that really does portray into your attacks that actually hit you. You want to be cautious about being around people that are sick, or family members that have something that might be communicable. You want to be really careful of that because it breaks down your immune system even more. Talk to your neurologist about taking vitamin D, about that kind of stuff, what recommendations that they have for you. It's important, and listen to what they have to say. So, but again, the Ocrelizumab has actually taken me out of just a horrible attack, and I haven't been that way since probably chemo. My skin hasn't burned so bad like that in a really long time, and there is nothing that's more frustrating than being uncomfortable and in pain. I can deal with anything. I can deal with the numbness, I can deal with the tingling, I can deal with the loss of a limb, meaning that I have no function in a certain hand because the nerves and the muscles just are not reacting to what I want them to do. I can deal with that. That's easy breezy. The pain is what beats you down. So talk to your doctors about that. I know in the current crisis that the United States have about the opiates and stuff, doctors are really trepidatious about giving you any painkillers, anything. Talk to your doctors. Make sure that you communicate well with them. Also look for alternative methods. I'm only going to say that once. Alternative methods, there are several conditions, especially with MS, that are approved. You will be approved for like medical marijuana or That is something that I know that my family, when we've known people that have had MS, I have seen their spasticity relax. I have seen that kind of stuff. And it was just amazing. We have been such an anti-drug family for a very, very long time. So some of those alternative methods, look for the truth. Don't believe what people say. Pay attention to what's going on in your world. So just wanted to let you know that there are so many other methods. Again, the ocrelizumab has actually, I really do believe, brought me back. I don't know if I attributed that or to my stubbornness. I haven't decided yet. But one thing that I do know is that I know that it helps keep my exacerbations down. And I will tout this till the day that I die. And at this point, it's looking like it might be another, I don't know, 50 years. That's my goal. That put me in my 90s, but we're going to work that out. So anyway, I just wanted to check in. MS update, little bit of history about me. I miss you all so very much. I love filming. Again, in my previous tutorial, if you don't watch the makeup ones, I just want to let you guys know that I have my studio all set up. Everything is going well. We are completely moved now. My stress level is so low, and last week I worked almost 60 hours, the week before almost 60 hours. I feel like I'm back to being reliable and accountable, and I struggle a lot with my personal feelings when it comes to how my coworkers feel. I struggle a lot with that because my biggest fear is to be useless. I don't ever want to be useless. It is a huge fear of mine, and being useless is just not how this world's supposed to be. So I do not want to have to be dependent upon anyone but me. And that's why I think I fight so hard. I have to keep going.